Hello everybody and welcome back to the And More Bus Videos YouTube channel. I'm And More Bus Videos, otherwise known as And More Central, depending on what day of the week and what video you're watching. And welcome to a bit of a buzz video with a bit of a Buzz B Network theme. So, it is the day that I'm filming this, or the day that this releases, should I say. It is exactly a week till Tranche 2 in the B network goes live. That will mean, roughly speaking, just over half of the Manchester network is in the franchising scheme. The very exciting bus franchising that's happening in Manchester. One of the biggest things to happen to buses outside of London since 1986. So I thought in this video, as well as having a little bit of a B network buzz theme on the main And More Central channel, I thought with it being a week till it all goes live, we'll have a little drive of the lovely E200MMC by V3.03 with the lovely B network E200MMC repaint. So, I've also managed to sort out the interior. I've installed the enhancement pack, so since I last did this video, although there's a few bits that aren't textured for some reason, the main seats are B networkified. There is a slight differentiation with these in real life, i.e. there's one of them, the seats at the front have sort of priority branding on them, but unfortunately, because of sometimes how OMSI 2 textures and bits like that work, unfortunately, everything just has to look the same. However, it does look really nice. I like the interior on it. I like the destination blind. It's all very nice and clear, and it all seems to work quite nicely. So we are on the Westcountry map, one Westcountry version 3.03. I thought we'd done a little bit, a fair bit of Lincolnshire, so we'll revisit Lincolnshire soon, but I thought we'd have a video or two away from it. And we are going to be taking this bus from here in Totnes to Paignton on the 35. So we'll have a little bit of a chat about the B network, what's been happening in Bolton and Wigan, what's happening over in Tranche 2 in Rochdale and Oldham predominantly, and some of the guesses for what might be happening and who might be getting wins in Tranche 3, because when it does go live that week, they are also announcing who's won Tranche 3 on the same sort of main launch day on the Monday. So although it does launch on the Sunday, Monday will be the main test, as there'll be all the peak time buses and all of that lot to sort. So we will get our machine logged in. There we go. My driving position seems a bit higher than when I last drove this, although I'll say that this is the enhancement pack. So that could possibly be why, as my driving position does certainly seem different on this to what I'm used to. Steering lock is better on this than the ones I've driven in real life. I must say, corners like that, the MMCs I've driven in real life would rather struggle with that. Oh, we have all these different cameras. Oh, how exciting. Joys of an enhancement pack. Oh, look at that. That looks very nice. This was something that we were certainly missing with the previous edition of this. Goodness me. There we go. We've got people.
Hello, mate.
Gosh, that looks really, really nice. So yeah, it's been a few months now. I mean, we're talking around 6 months now since B Network, or just under, since the B Network first went live with Tranche 1 in Bolton and Wigan. Now, unfortunately, I'm yet to visit Wigan. I didn't get a chance on the day that we went to Bolton. I got that sidetracked with Bolton itself. I didn't get a chance to go to Wigan, unfortunately. However, Wigan is on the cards. When I do get a chance to pop over, once the Tranche 2 stuff is settled in, I am going to be popping over for a 6-month review to see what's happened after 6 months, and to sort of have a little nosy about. There's also all of the Trident 2 E400s that they've got there that I won't mind sampling, most of which have been refurbished. So I won't mind sampling them as well, and just having a little look around the network. I mean, you've got oddball services like the 362 that use this type of bus, E200MMCs that go up to Chorley. Previously in a Riva Northwest and Bolton base service that transferred over with the B network and became the 362 run by Go Northwest instead of a Riva. Now that brings us on to the same topic of cross-border services with the Tranche 2 in Oldham. Now I've done a video on the 184 and how that's going to be changing hands, so do go and check out that video if you haven't already, to give you a bit of an idea as to what's kicking off with that, and what have, as that is quite an interesting route, and it's got quite an interesting story as to why it's becoming part of the B network. You see, the 362 became part of the B network because it was run by an operator that based it out of a depot that was in the B network area. So basically it transferred over by default, in essence. In that way it moved across quite fluidly to make it easier. However, the 184 is now based out of Huddersfield. I mean, when it was based out of Oldham, it would have been quite understandable. But it's based out of Huddersfield with First West Yorkshire. So it is a bit of a strange one. I'm not going to spoil what the video's explanation is for that. But basically, from the 24th, so from next Sunday, the 184 service is drastically going to be changing operator. And as a result, it's going to be run by Stagecoach. It will be Stagecoach's first time in Huddersfield since about 2006. They ran very briefly, ran the operation. I believe I'd say that 2006, maybe 2008. Basically the mid to late 2000s. But they basically they took over Yorkshire Traction Group at the end of 2005. Yorkshire Traction Group, they predominantly took over for its operations in Sheffield, operations in Barnsley, and they were expanding at the time to run a few bits in South Yorkshire, so Yorkshire Traction Group made sense. Yorkshire Traction Group also included Strathtay up in Scotland and Lincolnshire Roadcar. Now Lincolnshire Roadcar, even though most people think of Tracky Group as Yorkshire Traction, Roadcar was arguably a substantially bigger operation at the time. It was absolutely huge with Roadcar, and where it operated and the relationships it had on its corridors, the interconnect brands, bits like that. So it all included that, so it was within Stagecoach's interest. Now the oddball area that they ended up taking over was Waterloo Depot in Huddersfield. As originally part of the Yorkshire Traction network in the Huddersfield base, they took over the Waterloo Depot and started running Dales and bits like that from there. Now it was only ever going to be short-lived. They didn't have much interest in West Yorkshire, did Stagecoach. I mean, since then they have dabbled in sort of, we're talking the past decade or two, they have dabbled. I mean, they did Sunday evening services from Wakefield on 444s, 446s to Leeds, and then the 425, 427 to Bradford. They did that for a brief couple of months as a tender win, but they realised it wasn't their kind of thing, it wasn't their interest, so they ended up giving it up. But basically with Waterloo, they operated it for about a year or two, a couple of years, and repainted a few vehicles and then sold it on to Centrebus Holdings, who initially branded it as the Huddersfield Bus Company, and then it morphed into Centrebus with the expansion of operations in Leeds with the win of the uni contracts, and then the win of the airport services. It was airport then uni contracts, and they expanded it henceforth with that. And nowadays it's Transdev, so that depot has changed hands a few times. I mean, it was initially Yorkshire Traction Group, then Stagecoach, then Centrebus Holdings, then Riva, and now Transdev. So it's had quite an interesting history as Waterloo Depot. So that's why it's quite exciting for Stagecoach to be running the 184 into Huddersfield, because it is going to be the first time that they've operated into Huddersfield this decade. It'll be the first time that Stagecoach Manchester operated into West Yorkshire, and it'll be the first time that Stagecoach have operated into West Yorkshire for a number of years. So it is all very exciting. As a result as well, Huddersfield, First Bus Huddersfield are rebranding their services towards Marsden. They're making them into the, I believe, the 381, 382, I think it is, a 382, 383. I am going to be doing some videos on the Ammo Central channel once we've got past the B network. I mean, there's quite a lot of videos scheduled after the B network. Content, oh, I didn't mean to do that. There's quite a lot of videos scheduled after the B network content, to such a degree that some of them might release just prior to the B network launching, because there's quite a lot. There's a fair few fleet farewell videos. I've still got to, I mean, we did the farewell to the 503. I've still got to actually do the Ellen Lines video. I mean, I have been on the Ellen Lines as part of my work commute a fair few times since they started, but I need to do a proper video on them. They've got buses branded up, they've put branding into bus shelters. It's in vast service improvement, so it does need documenting. So that's a work in progress video. I also want to review Huddersfield network as a whole when the changes to the Marsden routes take place, and also look at the changes that have taken place to the track services. It's the 370, 371, 372. So that'll all be within one big video. I've got leaflets and things that they've made as well to showcase in that video. So that's going to be one big video. I would imagine Steve will be there for that one, because he is quite well up with the Huddersfield world and Huddersfield buses. So that is very much his area. So he'll be definitely joining us for that video. I would imagine as well he'll probably end up joining us for the Tranche 2 launch videos. I mean, we have been planning the days that we're going to go and visit and pop over, so it would be quite nice. Just wanted to change the time forward slightly so that we continue to be on time and not run early. It is very important that we do stay on time, and I don't do what I usually do and end up just really early. So the vehicle that we are driving in this video, you'll have noticed, is a 24 plate, so YY24 EKF. And now what we're doing is we're recreating, in essence, one of the small batch of E200MMCs, 11.5 metres, that have now been delivered to Diamond Northwest. For the B network services that they operate in the smaller franchise wing in Bolton. So they were till quite recently using a lot of ex-First Bus, predominantly the first South Yorkshire streetlights that went off lease. Diamond acquired them, and these are now being transferred elsewhere. Quite a few of them are in the Midlands, and there's a few operating over in Ashton-under-Lyne on some tender wins that they won on a short-term contract before franchising takes place in Ashton. So they've got vehicles still running around Manchester, but not in Bolton anymore, have been replaced by these. So it has meant that quite a few streetlights that were there temporarily have gone off loan. Some of them have started popping up at the Old Midland Classic operation. They've started going to the West Midlands, bits like that, to update and upgrade the fleet generally. So these new vehicles are pretty sleek. I'm yet to go on one of the E200MMCs that they have for the B network. When the Oldham one settles in and what have, I've got a little bit more spare time in my hands now, so I'm going to try and intend to travel over there a fair few times, sample the vehicle, sample the routes, do a few more in-depth B network videos, because it is quite an exciting time, and as I have mentioned in a couple of my videos, it's really important to document it. I think it's really important because there's that much media focus, there's that much political interest in it at the moment. It's really important to focus and review it from when it starts, potentially pointing out some of the teething problems and some of the bits that may not be going to plan to start off with, and then also document when everything's settled in, have a proper in-depth look at the vehicles, what the features of the vehicles are, how they've refocused the route, how the franchise has been split up, because there's so many different areas now adopting that style of operation and wanting to. I mean, the week I'm filming this, West Yorkshire are deciding if they want to go ahead with franchising that's going to change the face of bus operation in West Yorkshire. I personally argue, and it might be slightly controversial, but I personally argue that West Yorkshire needs it. I would say it needs to be the London-style franchising and not the Manchester-style, to give independent operators a fair go, because I think that the Manchester franchising is unfair to smaller operators, independents who know the areas, who have been operating with the local communities for quite a while. I think it's vastly unfair on them. Operators like Stotts, for example, and Vision Bus haven't won any franchises and have been quite left out of it. I mean, Little Gem, they packed up shop and left to Liverpool because they understood that franchising was just not going to win, and that they weren't going to win anything. And I think that's the problem with it. And even then, if a smaller independent operator wins a smaller franchise, you've then got to also think, A, do they want to be running an operation that big? If they only ran an operation with about 3 or 4 bus routes and they were happy with that, do they want to run an operation that involves 20, 25 bus routes? They don't want to do that. Where are they going to source vehicles? Where are they going to source the drivers? And it's quite unfair. I mean, the London-style system does involve having an extra level of sort of management and bits like that, and coordination, and where they do have a tender department, where they tender each route and decide the specifications and bits like that. And as a result, a big area like London doesn't suffer from neglect with services. It doesn't suffer from the neglect, and each route does get focused on. Each route does get some love, some care, and understanding when it needs new buses and when it needs revived buses or transferred buses. And they understand as well in London that, let's say that they've got a brand new fleet of MMCs, let's say, I don't know, 68 plate MMCs, and they're on a high frequency corridor, and because it's got a high frequency central London corridor, they're replacing them with BYD electrics. Now, they're not just going to say, most of the time, I mean, there are the odd times where it's just not, you can't facilitate it. But they do, most of the time, basically say that, yeah, put the new electric vehicles in, and then if there's another tender coming up at the same time, they'll basically say, well, just upgrade that route using the vehicles that we've just had replaced off this. So it's a little bit of common sense and logic that goes into the London one. And the thing with the London franchising is little operators stand a chance. I mean, be it on potentially just school runs if it's quite a high competitive region, or on services. I mean, Uno operate services in London. I mean, you had London Easy Link that was quite an ill-fated operation, but they got to operate services. And because of the security with franchising on a route-by-route basis, when they did go under, they could get a supplementary operator in at short term to sort it. And that's the security that you have with the franchising. If an operator goes under for whatever reason, you do have that security. But you do need to have a department to do it, and you do need to have it on an individual route basis. There's no point of doing it on such a huge area, because it's like with Stagecoach, they understand that how big the operation is. I mean, they've been preparing for franchising with painting buses long before they won Oldham. They were preparing for the last 18 months. I think 18 months ago, something daft like that, the first bus appeared in yellow for B Network. So they've been preparing for such a long time that even though they didn't know that they were going to win anything, they might have not won anything, but they've prepared for it because it's that big of a job. So if you do it route by route, and let's say you pick, I don't know, in West Yorkshire, so let's say you'd pick, let me think of it, like Castleford. Castleford's a perfect size. And your first route that you could franchise could be the 163, 166. It might stay with Arriva, it might go to another operator. But you franchise it, or what, it's just the 163 now. So you franchise the 163 route, then you probably franchise the 189. Then you do the 156. And you do it progressively, and the more confident you get with it, the more security that you have that it's working, there's no issues, the more you can sort of do the franchises in groups like they do in London, where they'll sort of have in each franchise like block every couple of weeks. They'll probably have about 6 or 7 bus routes that come up for franchising, and they'll probably end up, some of them sometimes go to the same operators, but sometimes they go to different operators, and they'll on 6 different routes may go to 6 different operators, and that's what makes it fair. That's what makes it a fair and right way to do it, because the operators do get a chance. I mean, as I say, Uno operates into central London with red buses now, and you've got such a variety of companies, and you've got the school runs that they do, and there's so many different opportunities in the TfL style franchising. So your little independent operators in West Yorkshire, which there are a lot. I don't know why I'm pulling in, nobody's getting off. But the little operators do deserve a chance. They really do deserve a chance in West Yorkshire. And I think it would be incredibly unfair if they didn't give them a chance, if they didn't do it route by route, spend that little bit of extra money that will pay off in the end, because the services will be more reliable and they'll be more frequent and there'll be more focus on it. So people will feel that there's care going into the services, so more people will use them. And I think if you do that, if you do it route by route, you'll tend to find that operators based locally will probably bid for local services. So you won't have operators from a million miles away. You might have initially, but most operators won't bid for service a million miles away. But you'll have that operator security, so you'll have that guarantee for the customer. So let's say a service run by Arriva now continues to be run by Arriva. I mean, Arriva recently in Yorkshire have just been voted, apparently, with Transport Watchdog, have been voted the worst bus operator in England. So, but let's say Arriva Yorkshire won a franchise tender for a route they already run, like the 254, 255, for example. There would be this guarantee in place that they would have to abide by a certain frequency, I would imagine, an incredibly low number of cancellations, and if they went over that, like you do in TfL land, you do get fined, and you might get the tender taken off you. And that's the security that you need in West Yorkshire. You don't necessarily need one big operator running everything, because that's when stuff will still get cancelled. But you do need individual operators who do know their routes to run them under a franchising system, because it then guarantees that level of security. It guarantees that inter-ticketing, it guarantees the connections, it guarantees a certain frequency of service, it guarantees late night buses where they may be needed, early morning buses where they're needed, but you still run by an individual company. So if something does happen, they're not in this position where it's one massive operator running an entire city. So if the operator starts being relatively slack with it, you can't do anything. And that's going to be, if they're not careful, that'll be the issue that Manchester may end up with the B network. And that's why it's a little bit concerning if other local councils and bits are watching what's happening with the B network and they're liking it, because as much as the B network is good, I do personally believe it's franchising. We should give it a go. I mean, it has worked in London, so we should give it a go. I do also think it works quite well in cities, but I do think it needs to be done in the right way. And I would still argue that, although it is exciting what's happening in Manchester, I do worry that if something does go wrong with a bus company, they won't be able to do much about it, because you can't really source about 300 buses to cover a town overnight and about 400 or 500 drivers. So it is a bit concerning in that level. But hopefully, as I say, other councils will look at the Manchester model, look at the London model, and hopefully adopt the London model. Costs a little bit more money, but it'll be worth it in the long term. But anyway, with all of that franchising discussion in mind, I really do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have done, do be sure to click that like button so that people can find it and enjoy like you have. If you haven't already, do be sure to subscribe to the And More Bus Videos YouTube channel for more content like this from the simulation section, with OMSI 2 videos up to twice a week, as well as an archive of over 6,000 backseat and engine-focused public transport videos from the UK and beyond. With buses, trams, trains and more, there's something on there for everyone, with an additional 21 of those videos added per week. And do make sure that you check out the And More Central channel if you have enjoyed our discussion about bus franchising today, with a 3-week focus at the moment, a 3-week special focus on the B network as Tranche 2 takes place in Oldham and Rochdale. So it's going to be quite an exciting time for Tranche 2, exciting time for the franchising, and I've done quite a lot of coverage before, and we'll be doing some coverage as it begins. So do go and check out the channel and subscribe if you haven't already. Once again, I'd like to thank you all for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this one, and I will see you all in the next video, mate. Goodbye for now. Bye.